This?
Ladies,
What? Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Oh.
We didn't plan that. That all just came out.
Do over. Just kidding. We're not starting over. Full steam ahead. That's
This is
the way
live.
life
This
goes.
is live on the air.
We're not
It's
kidding
actually
around.
It's actually not live. It's pre-recorded.
Welcome to the Pastors of Pain podcast radio show. You might be listening to us on Pete 94.3 in Stillwater or AM 780. You might be listening to us on Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting Network. You might be listening to us as a podcast on your favorite podcast
Podbean,
venue, whatever that may
Apple,
be. But anyway, we're a little radio
like
show. We're here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, Oklahoma's 10th largest city.
Wow.
Which is no distinction whatsoever. Payne County, Oklahoma's best county, ranked number one on my list of the 77 counties. Payne County is the number one.
Why is it? Is it because you're here now?
Yeah.
So wherever that title moves, wherever you move?
That's not true.
Very
Because I've lived in
present.
Tulsa County. Tulsa County's good. Tulsa County's probably number two.
Wow.
Although I'm a big fan. I like Logan County.
But the Logan County's right next to us.
I also
It's
like
just-
Noble County.
Oh, stop. Now you're just
But really, I just like Payne
pandering to
County.
your audience.
Father Kerry, how are you? How are you? What's going on?
Me?
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic. It's a good summer to be alive. Just
Rocking and rolling.
enjoying doing some work around the church and
Yeah.
also just fishing.
Pastorally caring for your college students.
Pastorally caring. We've had some sick college students.
Gearing up for the year.
We had a number of focused missionaries in town. There was 11 or 15 of them.
That's about right.
That was a couple weeks ago, and then just getting those focused missionaries off to their campuses in South Dakota,
Ooh, yeah.
Vanderbilt, SMU in Dallas. Who else is going? There's a couple going to different places.
Yeah, you're getting some new ones.
Yeah, getting.
We'll have to have them on the show when they get here.
No.
No?
I don't. They're not allowed to speak publicly.
All right. Whatevs.
Oh, okay. I'll let just this one time.
One
Just
of them's from my home parish.
really? Martha Mary Lazarus Friends of Jesus Catholic Church.
Yeah. One of your missionaries and I grew up at the same parish.
25 years apart from each other.
Come on. What the heck?
There's no way. I mean, he's 20. He's 24, 25. 25. He? She? I don't know which one it is.
We're friends on Facebook, so we're basically best friends.
Besties. Hey, I have a question. I have a question.
Okay.
Just a little couple months in review. I just want to bring up some things that you have said on a previous podcast. Okay. Whoa. Okay, just
I'm ready.
turn down the judgment
judgment?
and thinking that I'm going to say. Okay. So it has been reported to me, and now I'm bringing this live on the air. This is not a court of judgment. I just
You've already said that. Okay, what?
Did you say?
Oh, no. This is what I usually ask you. Did you say?
Yeah, and I slept last night. Did you say that Mother Teresa is the Michael Jordan of the Catholic Church?
Did I say that on the episode? We did an episode about Michael Jordan.
And we've
Greatness.
and we've talked about Mother Teresa a lot.
Did I say that Mother Teresa is the Michael Jordan of the church?
Yes.
I might have said that.
Why would you say that? Just tell me. Just.
I mean, if we think of like Michael Jordan as the
GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, I put Mother Teresa as the top of many saints,
Like in her
especially
mission.
modern saints and her dedication to the poor.
Yes. Opening AIDS hospitals in California,
and
serving
like
soup kitchens
saints
amongst the
of the
poorest of the
20th
poor.
century.
Yeah, leper colonies.
I mean,
yeah.
So maybe you got a problem with it? You want to fight?
Who would win in a basketball game? Mother Teresa or Michael Jordan? Okay, so Mother Teresa is a saint. Is a saint. So now she's liberated from the
supernatural.
Yeah, she has those.
abilities.
Can she dunk over Jordan?
Jordan's still alive. Be fun to watch. So I have to tell you something.
Oh no!
So sometimes on the show, we're airing this today. Is it's Festivus, the airing of grievances.
The ways you have failed me this year, O'Brien.
You sometimes refer to Stillwater and Payne County by a particular nickname.
The Red Dirt Riviera.
All right. So I had an eminent soil expert who also is a member of my parish. He's literally a soil expert.
Like dirt guy.
Soil.
Or girl.
Soil. And he's a listener to the show.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, Doc.
Yes.
And he told me that it's not dirt.
Oh.
It's soil.
That's the difference between cement and concrete.
Soil is what is in the ground. When we say it's red soil.
The red soil Riviera.
Dirt is what then like if you picked up the soil and like put it on your shirt.
God made dirt don't hurt.
Dirt. But it's strictly speaking not soil.
But dirt,
not dirt. It's
dirt
soil.
doesn't have a second definition. Soil means to like defecate on yourself. So if I said like the
red soil,
the red
I think
soil,
everybody knows you were referring to the ground.
Everybody also knows that I understand.
I'm just saying. Look, you came at me. I'm coming at you.
I used the word concrete the other day, and I was corrected. No, it's cement. Cement. Concrete? No, cement.
Ah.
So I have to learn these word differences. I get it.
We're learning words are hard.
But red soiled Riviera doesn't just roll off the tongue like red dirt Riviera.
I just wanted to make that. I was asked to make that correction. I have now made that correction. May we please move on to a more substantial.
So if I ever say it again,
subject.
We'll give Jay like a sound that he can just get. I'll say, "Oh, I guess welcome to Stillwater, the red," and he'll like soil Riviera. He can just edit dub
good.
it.
Yeah. So last episode we talked about like kind of what's better, going to Mass in person or watching Mass on TV.
And do you have any kickbacks on this? Any throwbacks?
No. People
are like, I'm done coming to church, Father.
No. I think people appreciated it. So I had a friend in college who he was a quote unquote friend. He was very biblically based.
Okay.
Right. It was what we had that in common. We frequently spoke of the scriptures.
Okay.
But he had objections to Catholics calling the Mass a sacrifice. He did not like that.
Okay.
That his implication was when you say that the Mass is a sacrifice, you are implying that Jesus is being killed at every Mass.
Okay.
And then that went along with what he saw in this. We were at Boston College, Catholic University, which had crucifixes everywhere.
Okay.
And so it was his what he saw in Catholics was we were more about the death than about the resurrection. He didn't like that.
Okay.
And when we're more about the sacrifice, multiple sacrifices, than we are about the one sacrifice, which is Christ's death. Are we sort of re-crucifying Jesus at every Mass? And I would say no, and we would talk it through, and I just never was able to quite convince. So I thought maybe we would hit on that, and maybe in hopes that my long-lost friend, who I haven't spoken to in 20 years, not because we're not friends, but, we go our separate ways.
Correct.
It happens in life. So why do we call the Mass a sacrifice?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah, no, I'm asking. What
do we call it a sacrifice?
are we when you think sacrifice, a lot of people think death, killing.
Correct.
But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, we say like a sacrifice of praise.
Or I made a sacrifice today and didn't buy this and
that
doesn't.
So that's I think that was one of the discussions we used to have all those years ago
about language.
That sacrifice does not equal killing. But there's a lot of sacrifice in the Old Testament. The killing of animals.
Right, and that's to enact the covenant.
Ooh, tell us about that.
Diatheke, I'm trying to remember these Greek words. Diatheke is the word covenant. In the New Testament, the word covenant is only used one time. In the Gospels, 4 Gospels. It's only used at the Last Supper. This is the covenant in my blood. So you could call the New Testament, which is testamentum, which is the word covenant, you could call it the diatheke, the new diatheke, the new covenant, the new sacrifice. because of this a sacrifice. A covenant is always connected with blood. The sacrifice of like an animal, the sacrifice of 2 turtle doves to enact this covenant between the parents of Jesus and God. And so we have that one time in the New Testament, this the word covenant, diatheke, which is connected with the lamb that is sacrificed. So every year there was this sacrifice of these lambs, which goes all the way back to the Old Testament to Abraham, where Abraham is offering a sacrifice to God on the mountain. And instead of, God says, I saw how faithful you are that you would sacrifice your only son. So there's a ram caught in the thicket and they're looking for a lamb. And so even Isaac, as they're going up the mountain, I love that story because it's like, there's no way an old man could sacrifice this young boy, like his son Isaac. We should refer to it as like Isaac's sacrifice because he's like, he's carrying the wood up.
Yep.
And it says his dad binds him to it, but I mean, he has to like lay down on it. There's no way his son, the old man's going to overpower the son who's like 15, 16 years old. So that the sacrifice is richly connected with the Old Testament and those covenants of the Old Testament. Sacrifices and covenants are connected with blood. So as we get to the to the New Testament, we find that John the Baptist points out who Jesus is at the beginning of the Gospel of John. He says, "Behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world."
Yes.
And so Jesus is not, and that's the number one image of Jesus throughout the scriptures, is Jesus is a lamb. Even in the book of Revelation, he's a lamb.
Worthy is the Lamb who was slain.
Yes, on the altar.
Power and riches, wisdom and strength, honor and glory and praise.
Yeah, on the altar there's a lamb. And that's Jesus Christ is the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world.
Which we say in the Mass.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now we have this lamb we've been waiting for, and John the Baptist points him out, who will then, as is on the Passover, who will be sacrificed at the evening twilight. That's the ritual from the book of Exodus, that the lamb should be inspected, Pontius Pilate. It should be found without blemish, Pontius Pilate. It also goes to Herod. It also goes to Herod, and Herod inspects him also and says, send him away. He's found with no fault. None of his bones are broken. That's what his side is pierced. And he is then sacrificed on the altar of the cross. But that sacrifice then is also connected with, as we talked about last week, is connected with Holy Thursday, the Passover meal, which liberates us from freedom, from slavery to sin and death, and to embark on a new exodus in this new testamentum, this new covenant, this new diatheke. So the thusia, the sacrifice, is not just a meal, it is the slaughtering of the Son of God.
So that's where I think we would differ from some of our Protestant brothers and sisters on who would say, like, we have communion, we have a communion service. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but whereas we're kind of talking about it in the sense of a sacrifice, not like a commemorative meal.
Right. So
it is a meal in that we're eating.
Correct.
Do this in memory of me. Take and eat, take and drink. But it's more. You would never just say, no. The Mass is a meal. Is only a meal.
It's a Passover, and the Passover wasn't just the leaving of Egypt. The Passover is the sacrifice of the lamb. Because it's when the lamb's blood is painted on the doorposts of the house that the destructive angel passes in a way, passes by them, that there is this death to the firstborn, the gods of Egypt, the firstborn gods of Egypt, and there's this freedom for the people. And so the Jewish understanding of the Passover and of the sacrifice is that when it is celebrated, you're participating in that event. So in 2020, when my Jewish friends celebrate the Passover, they're celebrating the Passover in Egypt. It's one event.
Mm-hmm.
And so our understanding of the Passover, the sacrifice
Mass,
of Jesus, is that every time the Mass is celebrated, we're 33 AD. We're on Calvary. The upper room is connected together. If you ever watch the movie The Passion of the Christ, what's the image that Jesus has when he's on the cross? It's of the Last Supper. Those two events are so connected together that you cannot separate them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like dirt and soil. I mean, you cannot separate the two of them.
So there's also, I think there's some arguments that the idea that the Mass is a sacrifice is not like an apostolic teaching. It does not go all the way back to the beginning.
It goes to Holy Thursday, because Jesus wouldn't have thought of Holy Thursday any other way except a Passover sacrifice. I mean, it's there. It's not something that's extra biblical that's being put on it. Jesus, when he sat down with his apostles on Holy Thursday, he wouldn't have thought of like, oh, dude, guys, just come over. Hey, Thomas, you bring some Buffalo Wild Wing, and and James, you, how about some ribs? Can you guys do some? You guys can do like Jesus? Bread.
Unleavened bread.
And then the ritual of the Passover, the 4 parts, the 4 cups of the ritual Passover. Jesus and the 12 apostles would have thought nothing different than this is a Passover.
And then
sacrifice.
we would hold too that is it was Jesus celebrated the Last Supper with his apostles, but then that teaching was then passed on. I mean, so we see early in the early church, there's mention of the sacrifice in the Didache.
The Didache means sacrifice. Diatheke, yeah.
So that's 70 AD. Pope Clement I in 80, Ignatius of Antioch in 110, Justin Martyr.
What? Keep the hits going, O'Brien.
That's 155. Irenaeus in 189. Cyprian of Carthage in 253. Cyril of Jerusalem 350.
What? Just
Gregory Nazianzen.
That guy, the new theologian?
I just love saying his name. That's 383. Ambrose.
Yes.
Ambrose of Milan is 389. John Chrysostom died in 403. St. Augustine, right? Very well known. So all of these have talked. That's 412. These guys. I mean, that's 5 centuries right there. Where
5 centuries.
Where among the greatest minds, the greatest thinkers, the early bishops, the idea of a sacrifice.
The people who put the Bible together and gave us the doctrines of the faith.
The idea
who defended the doctrine of the faith.
That it was the one sacrifice, not multiple sacrifices happening, at the same.
Vinnie Flynn, in his book 7 Secrets of the Eucharist,
Vinnie Flynn,
talks about the one Mass. The one Mass, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about the when, like how long we've been doing this, it's for a long time.
Been a long time, been a long, lonely,
very long time. Okay, so then the idea, I think it's interesting that like the sacrifice does not mean that to kill. When one offers a sacrifice, it's a gift, which can involve the killing of an animal. So we see that a lot in the Old Testament. But there's also the sacrifice of praise. That's Hosea chapter 4.
Yeah. The
sacrifice of thanksgiving, Psalm 50. Then, anyway, there's lots of those. The idea of a sacrifice does not necessarily involve the killing, which I think is interesting. Okay, so then Hebrews 9 talks about the sacrifice being offered once for all. And so what would you say to the idea that there's this re-sacrificing at every Mass, as if the one sacrifice of Calvary was not enough?
Well, if someone says that Jesus is being re-crucified at every Mass, that is just a poor understanding. Hold on. I've heard this over and over again. And it means for a person to sit down and say, to like I said earlier, to go back to the Passover. They're not re-sacrificing the lamb in Egypt. They're participating. They didn't go and find those bones of that lamb.
Making that past event
present.
Yes.
Because that's what memorare means. It doesn't mean to do this in memory of me. Memorare doesn't mean I think in my mind about my grandmother. God rest her soul. I don't think in my mind about my auntie. I don't think in mind about my, second grade teacher, Miss Pippin, who was so cruel to me. It's so mean. They don't appear here. Like Miss Pippin is not showing up. My Aunt Helen is not showing up. My grandmother is not showing up here in my present moment. They're in my mind. That's memory. Remember, we talked about this a couple of times. Like the U.S. English language is so rich and beautiful, and then it lacks things like memory. It lacks words like love, the deep definitions of things, etymology, the study of words. Just break open that word of memory.
That was on Jeopardy a couple weeks ago.
Like the word.
So you know.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So when we break open the word of memory, do this in memorare of me. It's not just I'm thinking about it and I'm killing Jesus as he shows up. He shows up on the scene and I'm stabbing him. No, that event is appearing in my midst. And not just appearing, it's wrapped around me.
And I think if you have that, there's lots of debates in the church about reverence. And are people, do people take the Mass seriously? So people get into arguments about how people dress when they come to Mass or how people act. And it's not a free for all, but I think there would be a lot of those issues would go away, of kind of the idea of this is very, very, very important. If people could articulate and understand that Calvary was coming to life in front of them.
And if you go through and read
and I say that's also true of priests, by the way. I know I'll speak for myself. You can get into kind of a mode of like, oh, here we go, here's another Mass.
I gotta celebrate Mass.
But the idea, we say this prayer. A lot of priests say this prayer before they celebrate Mass. Lord, help me to celebrate this Mass as if it were my first Mass, my last Mass, my only Mass. To concentrate on the importance of this moment, to bring that reverence into this moment, because what's happening at every Mass, daily or Sunday, is super important. It's super important. The one sacrifice of Christ is being made present. The Lamb who was slain. It's happening.
Correct. And Malachi, I was looking at Malachi the prophet,
Tell me
chapter
about
2.
Malachi.
Yeah, Malachi
That's
the
been a
prophet,
while.
chapter 2. Chapters 1 and 2. You should read the prophet Malachi. It's an easy read. It's beautiful, and it talks about what the role of priests are. The St. Paul's letter to the Hebrews talks about the sacrifice in the temple and Jesus being a priest of the order of Melchizedek, and how there's this priesthood that's shared throughout history. As you know, as Catholic priests were ordained priests of the order of Jesus Christ of Melchizedek.
According to the order of Melchizedek.
You are a priest of Melchizedek, the priest that comes into existence, and as St. Paul says in the letter to Hebrews, has no beginning and has no end. It's eternal, and that is what we participate in. I don't know if my analogy about the kind of matter was kind of accurate. And
Which
maybe
analogy is that?
Yeah, my analogy of matter last week, that we participate in this matter that has existed from all times. It's kind of like, I think maybe it's like oxygen, like the oxygen that you and I are breathing has been around forever. I'm not producing my own oxygen. Yep. The water that we drink, like whenever someone throws away a bottle of water and it's like half full, I dump it on the ground because you can't reproduce that. Like the H2O we have is the H2O we have.
We don't have any more.
We can't produce it. So any water that's in a dumpster somewhere is gone for all eternity. Well, not all eternity. It's gone.
I got you.
So, and we participate in this oxygen that is around us, that Jesus breathed, that dinosaurs breathed, that everybody has breathed. And so too, I'm participating in this holy sacrifice of the Mass that began in 33 AD and exists for all time and all eternity.
So what about the resurrection? Like, I think that's where some people would push back and say, so you're like constantly representing the sacrifice, Jesus' death, but he rose, like it's over.
He did.
He died and then he rose. So why are you still talking about the death?
In the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is all in the same, because remember, he's glorified.
So, and I would say liturgically, we would say like Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, from the Last Supper to the resurrection, we consider that basically like one day, one
event.
So it's its own liturgical season. We call it the Triduum, right? It's 3 days, but one
tripartite, one thing.
Yeah. So the Eucharist, for example, the Eucharist is not celebrated on Good Friday. We celebrate Holy Thursday, and then the next time we celebrate the Mass is
Easter Sunday.
Is the Easter Vigil.
Okay, now give me that question once again. Your question.
Oh yeah, what
about the resurrection?
It seems I think one could say you Catholics seem to be really caught up in the death, but like, what about the resurrection?
Okay, that's what the Eucharist. The Eucharist is two things. Is as a priest celebrating Mass, you pour water into a chalice, and you pour wine into the chalice, and then you have this bread, and the two are separated. Such as Jesus' body on Calvary, his divinity is separated from his humanity when he descends into the dead. When he dies upon the cross, his divinity and his humanity separate from each other, as well as his flesh and his blood. And at the consecration, both in the Eastern and the Western liturgies, what's the event right before the distribution of Holy Communion? It's the unification of the two together. We call down the Holy Spirit that this bread would become divine.
We take a piece
exactly
of the host, and the piece of the consecrated host, the Eucharist, goes into the chalice.
Yes, to bring the body and the blood and the water that was noticeably comes from Jesus' side back together in the chalice. Back together as one. By the mingling of his body and blood, let us come to share in the divinity of Christ, who is humbled to share in our humanity. That's the preparation for the chalice. Yeah. And then at that, what do? It says you hold it up and you said, "Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those who are called to the supper of the Lamb." So this is all one event wrapped up together. Also, I tell people, like, when they're like, you just... Jesus come down off that cross. I said, he also came out of the nativity set too, but every December 25th, you put him back on display. He came down. He came down off the cross. Yeah. But why do we have the crucifix on the wall? Is to remind us that not only did God suffer for us, he also died. Not that he died. He was humiliated. He was naked, and he was unashamed. Unlike Adam in the garden, who was naked and like the TV show, afraid.
And ran and hid. Wow, a lot there.
Unpack it. Go back and study this. Rerum Novarum. Learn this stuff anew.
The Catechism on the Eucharist.
Father Mike Schmitz. Father Mike Schmitz got this video called Praying the Mass Like Never Before. Watch it.
It's like an hour-long talk.
Yeah, it's from Seek or SLS, one of the two. It's brilliant.
So, wow, we've done 3 straight episodes on the Eucharist, on the Mass.
Really?
We should do more. This is fun. So if this resonated with you, let us know. If there's other subjects, especially around the Eucharist, what would those be? What questions do you have that maybe we could dive into? And this helps us, by the way, as much as it helps you, I think, if anyone's listening. Okay, we're leaving.
God bless you.
We hope you have a great week. Stay safe. Pray for us.
Be holy. Be smart.
And we love you.